Yeah, my role has always been on the operational side, being the head of operations, business operations, sometimes involving a little bit of business development because when you are in contract manufacturing, most of your customers want to talk to whomever is delivering the products, not to marketing or sales, so to speak. So I have been always in the operations slash business development from a strategic standpoint. And being president as well as COO as well as senior and executive VP of operations. So it has always been in that side of the arena. Well, definitely risk is increasing because uncertainty is increasing tenfold much faster than before. What I would say about 3, 4, 5 years ago, there was always a hope in which you could, let's say, between quotations, stuff the channel or send products to the channel that they will some way, somehow find a way to get sold. Nowadays, it's not being sold. And therefore, if you actually ship product with the concept of what we call sell-in versus what is the actual sell-through rate, you will be in deep trouble very soon because those products will come back to you, and then you now have problems of returns, recognition of revenue, excess inventory, so on and so forth. So the risk and the way you have to address the risk is, number one, you have to adapt your supply chain to the actual sell-through. And this is something that the overall industry, both on consumer goods, consumer electronics, and in general, even in the CPG arena, they still having some problems with because the culture has been, I want to have X weeks of inventory in my point of sale, in my distribution hub, and you keep adding all of this, and the supply chain has been extremely distorted from a cultural as well as theoretical standpoint. So the facts of risks are not only related to the specific economic situations that are quite dire, but also because we have a huge change management being required, breaking usual processes and behaviors in the operational world. So definitely I'm seeing a lot of risk. Yes, we did, and they are actually defined in two big buckets. The number one is what we call the channel partners, the actual sell-through piece of it, and the second piece is how you create a supply chain, and by supply chain here I'm defining all the processes from core raw materials to the transformation processes of components to the transformation processes of your product to the fulfillment of the deliverables to the channel and the end users, right? It's how you create a flexible, modular process so that you can spare and split the risk. Instead of, as an example, if you have a 12 weeks lead time and you have to always deal with 12 weeks, how can you reduce and break down those 12 weeks lead time into manageable components? So you actually have to peel the onions and say, okay, what actually makes my problem 12 weeks? And start to dealing with only that piece and not the overall product. And try to create processes of transformation, manufacturing, and production that will actually produce sub-assemblies or modular components in which you can deal with those lead times in a different way instead of actually trying to create an overall solution for a full product. So it's actually breaking down the complexity. So it's a combination of both. So we did create all those processes that actually dealt with the worst lead time between 14 and 12 weeks on specific chip components and boards. However, we also have reduced the components that were 6 weeks or 5 weeks or 4 weeks to only enter the supply chain whenever they were required. Otherwise, you will carry the processes and continue the processes and take the risk only at a component level at the longer lead time. At the same time that this was done, we also created what we called a modular MRP. Traditionally, you're going to have a bill of materials, and traditionally when you run your MRP, the MRP will run as a full components, and we start ordering products based upon lead time. What we did is we actually created modular sub-assemblies, and we actually combine those sub-assemblies both in time and location. Almost like, you split a product in 5 sub-products and you deal with them independently. And you strategically look at location and time and say, okay, how can I combine this in my final product? Also, as a subset of this, we actually designed in the capability to configure a product so that you would have, remember when I talked about the long lead time items? Those long lead time items, as much possible as is, they were core products across the family of final products that we have. Therefore, you reduce the risk of not building inventory that will not be sold, because what you have is at a board level, you have at a component level, and you're not putting any value add or transforming that piece in which you are increasing your risk as you move forward on the transformation process. So we also changed the design to also incorporate what we call the modular design and building, reducing risk with build-ups that will be common across the platform of products.